This will be a long-term review on my Honda Rebel 300, CMX 300. Most of the reviews you see on YouTube that say long-term are like 6 months, a year, something like that. I've had this one since it was brand new in 2017. It's my only motorcycle. I had a Rebel 250 before this. For anyone that doesn't know, the Rebel 250 was a completely different bike. I don't think it shared any parts at all with the 300. Whereas the 300 has a 286cc single-cylinder liquid-cooled engine, the 250 was a 236cc air-cooled parallel twin. And the 250, it was a lighter, just smaller bike, completely different styling as well. They were both cruisers, but the 250 is a much more sort of vintage feel bike, whereas this is more of a sort of a modern reinterpretation of a cruiser. That old 250 unfortunately does not exist anymore, as I was hit by an insurance agent, ironically enough. Totaled the bike and paid for this one. This bike, I'm pretty impressed with. More often than not, when people discuss these low power, small engine bikes, 250s, 300s, sometimes even 400s, they oftentimes act as if you'll outgrow it in no time flat, or you'll get bored with it or whatever. Well, I mean, I've only ever had small displacement bikes, and I've been riding since 2015. This bike actually served as one of my main forms of transportation for 2 years straight. Once I got this bike, I sold the car that I had, and we just had one car for my wife and this bike for me. So I've been out in it in all forms of weather, except for snow and ice. I found other modes of transportation if it was icing, but been in thunder, lightning, tremendous torrential downpour. I've been in 20-degree weather, high winds. So I learned a few things. For example, I think one of the most valuable accessories for a motorcycle, the most valuable accessory for a motorcycle to maximize your enjoyment, is to also own a car. Because riding every day, you kind of lose the enjoyment of riding. It just becomes more like work. But aside from that, this has been a supremely reliable motorcycle. I've not had to do anything other than regular maintenance, and in fact, I've really been sort of lacking on the regular maintenance a lot of times. I just replaced the chain and sprocket, but aside from that, I've replaced the tires once, done oil changes, and literally nothing else. I added the Pugue windscreen. I guess it was in either 2022 or maybe perhaps it was early last year. I don't like the looks of it so much. I like the more naked bike look, but it does help on the highway. Which brings me to highway. People sometimes act as if a bike like this is not suitable for cruising on the highway. And it is, but it isn't. It will absolutely go fast enough on the highway. I've had this one over 90 miles per hour, I believe. I think I've had it up to like 92, something like that. At any rate, it will definitely go fast enough to get you speeding tickets. um, the and it doesn't feel like it's running out of steam. I mean, once you get it up to towards 90, then yes, you're beginning to you don't have a whole lot extra speed left on tap. But at 70 miles per hour, I can accelerate uphill. It's not the fastest thing in the world. It's certainly not like a CBR 1000 RR or Hayabusa or anything like that. But it's faster than people give it credit for. 0 to 60, from what I can see online, and while I've never clocked it, it feels about right. It is usually listed at about 7.5 seconds or so, which is not fast enough to make anybody go ooh rah, but that is definitely fast enough that you can merge into traffic pretty well, and you can get in front of people at traffic lights if you need to. Let's look at this in perspective. In 1998, the fastest 4x4 production model in the world was the Jeep Grand Cherokee 5.9 Limited, and it did about 7.9 seconds, 0 to 60. The 2011, which was the final year of production, Ford Police Interceptor package of the Crown Victoria also did roughly 7.5 seconds. So, not going to win any drag races necessarily, but how much faster do you really need? Sorry, I'm in a public parking lot here. My old Rebel 250, I actually drove it on the highway a fair amount itself, and that one capped out at 75 miles per hour. This is, that little 250 twin was absolutely screaming at that, but this one, I don't feel any reluctance at all to hit 70 or 75 or 80, 85 perhaps. But the thing that does make it challenging on the highway, particularly before I got the windscreen, was you get an awful lot of wind. Your whole body acts like a sail. And this is a rather light motorcycle. So you can get that wind can kind of buffet you around a little bit. You'll notice mine is an early model, so it still has the halogen bulb. The more recent Rebels use those quad LEDs. I like mine better, honestly. And the seat is not particularly comfortable. I have a back seat that I will be adding probably this week, so my son can ride. But until now, I've not done any mods to it other than the windscreen. But I can get, on a good day, about 70 miles per gallon. If I'm riding harder or atmospheric conditions don't quite align or whatever, it's closer to 60 mpg. But I feel like that's really what a motorcycle ought to get. I know some Harley guys, personally know some Harley guys that act like theirs is such a fuel saver, and they're like, I get nearly 40 miles per gallon. I'm like, good grief, both of my cars can do that with 4 people inside. That's not impressive at all. But I think if you're not riding a bike that gets 70 miles per gallon, then it kind of, I don't know, begins to be a little bit less practical. And I guess that may be part of my problem. I tend to look at motorcycles from a practicality standpoint rather than a toy aspect. The seat height is pretty low, as anyone will tell you. I'm 5'9". I've got a 29-inch inseam, and I can easily stand over it. I find the riding position to be pretty comfortable. Handles well. I have scraped pegs a few times, but I don't normally ride that aggressively. One nice thing about the 300 versus the 500 is you have a whole lot more room in this to access the engine. It's just been a thoroughly reliable motorcycle. And I have, let's crank it up and let you hear it. People will say it sounds like a sewing machine or whatever, but I don't care, frankly. There are aftermarket exhausts you can get, but for the most part, they make it obnoxiously loud, and I'm not about that. Cut that off. It's got a locking fuel cap. Disc brakes at both ends, as you probably saw. Mine does not have ABS. Most of them you see probably will. But I've not had a problem. The newer models have a slipper clutch, and I am not exactly sure what that means. I know it's supposed to be an improvement, but I've never had a problem out of it. I've had a number of hard shifts over at different times. Transmission's held up just fine. It's been an appliance, is perhaps how I should say. It just has never let me down, even though I haven't been particularly babying it. People will, I won't lie and say that I would not like a bigger bike. I would very much like, for example, the Revel 500 or perhaps, like the new Kawasaki Z400 or Z500 or something like that. Maybe even something like a Suzuki SV650, but I think that's what it's called anyway. But for now, I'll be sticking with this. And here's the new seat installed. It's got these foot pegs, flip up and down. So that's about it. Have a good night.